We're in South Lebanon. Pretty cold day, very cloudy and rainy. The Israelis seem to have blown up something there in the village. We're gonna be heading towards Bint Jbail right now. Try to catch it before the sun go down. The Israelis withdrew. Last time we weren't able to showcase the village and show you what's been happening there. Let's head there now. We are at the edges of Bint Jbail. Beside me is a monument for resistance leader Khalid Bizzi. Behind me is Maroun and Maroun al-Ras hills. The Israelis were up there yesterday firing from those homes down on the road here and kind of chased away journalists. Bint Jbail is very precious for me personally. My mother, my late mother, Rihab Kelani, they came from Haifa on April 22nd, 1948. The Zionist militias put them, my grandmother and her children and my grandfather on a truck and drove them from Haifa to the edges of here, Maroun and Ras, and dumped them inside Bint Jbail. My grandmother was pregnant with my mother, and the minute she entered Bint Jbail, she gave birth to her. So I consider Bint Jbail as one of my hometowns because it's my mother's birthplace, and the people in Bint Jbail took care of my family, my mother's family, the Kelani families, and they still remember them, the elders here. Much of the south of Lebanon is historically, and the north of Palestine, all the way to Haifa, is called Jabal Amil. It's one geographic feature, one geographic region, and the families are intermarried. The habits are the same. The accent is very close in much of the Jabal Amil region of the South Lebanon and North Palestine. But you could tell why this land is so important for the Zionists. These hills overlook the whole of north of Palestine and the Hula Valley that way. Bint Jbail has suffered every war that the Zionists attacked Lebanon in, was one of the main targets because of its history of resistance and the fact that the people know exactly who they are, know their history and their connection to the rest of the region in Palestine. We're going to walk around in Bint Jbail and see some of the damage. Obviously, there's a lot of rubble here from the trucks and the tanks that were moving around here. Let's take a look. We're on the edge of Bint Jbail. Maroun al-Ras, and the hill of Maroun al-Ras is right there. The Israelis were in this area yesterday. They had entered Bint Jbail. It seems like they cut some trees, they destroyed some infrastructure, and we're checking it out since they left. We're going to be inspecting the damage and speaking about the village of Bint Jbail and its importance. You can see how important it is with the hills around it overlooking occupied Palestine. Yesterday the Israelis entered some houses in this part of the village. We're still in Bint Jbail. This is a monument for some of the resistance leaders martyred before the 2006 war, so mainly in the 90s and the early 2000s. Bint Jbail gave a lot of martyrs to the liberation of Lebanon. Partially this is why they are being punished today by the Zionists with continued incursions since the beginning of the ceasefire. The names of these martyrs: Sayyid Muhammad Abu Ta'am, Qasim Ibrahim Bizzi, Fuad Qasim Dabaji, Hassan Ali Sharara, Khalid Ahmed Bizzi, Rani Adnan Bizzi. So you can see like that at least three cousins amongst them. And it says, Khudh hatta tarda, take until you are happy. And that's saying to the God, the Almighty, take our lives until you are happy with us.
بدوقف هون أنا وياك بدون ما نوقع.
You can see behind us there, Al-Rahib Israeli outpost on top of the
عايت الشعب.
عايت الشعب and the hills there. This was a main target of the... Okay, that sounded...
The fires, some kind of fires.
So this was a main target of the Lebanese resistance
It was very important that the last operation after, I guess it was like Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday was the ceasefire day during the war. The last operation against al-Rahib outpost, which is a military base, happened with a guided missile. And although it wasn't very, they didn't get any kind of like important media coverage that they targeted al-Rahib outpost with an ATGM in the last day of the war, because also the resistance was firing, hundreds of missiles, and some ballistic missiles. If you remember, the last Sunday and Monday had the highest numbers of operations. But it's very meaningful that during the last day of the war, the resistance will be able to fire an ATGM against this outpost, because it means that a team of anti-tank weapons with its weapons is still in kilometers away from Hayat al-Sha'b, which is the most remote area in Lebanon that is actually inside the geography of occupied Palestine. It's like it's V-shaped inside the geography of occupied Palestine. And during the war, the Israelis were never able to conquer all Hayat al-Sha'b or to occupy all Hayat al-Sha'b. They just entered 2 neighborhoods of the village, and it's a big village, and they kept fighting until the last day. Now, sadly, they were able to enter it after the ceasefire, and this is the bad part of the story. Now, this hill over there, if you see this huge mountain, it's not a hill actually. Now, this is more than 14 kilometers away, by the way. But it looks near because it's very huge. It's Mount Meron, the Meron mountain that has, can you see the radomes on the top of it? Yeah. On that hill, there are the domes over there. This was the target of also the most important attacks of the resistance, because this mountain, this huge mountain, has one of the most sophisticated electronic warfare systems that was used, and the Israelis wanted to use to stop Hezbollah's drone attacks, and also they weren't able to do it. The drone attacks kept going until the last day of the war.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to enter these areas in the next few days.
Hopefully.
And inshallah the ceasefire continues.
Also, hopefully, we hope so. Although I'm not very optimistic that the Israelis, they will try to do something, and but we're hopefully looking forward that the people of these areas will return and rebuild their villages, and that on the other side, the settlers will be the ones who will have to wait.
Oh yeah, they haven't returned yet.
Yeah.
And inshallah they never return. Hey everybody, this is Laith Marouf with Hadi Hotait. We're in Al-Aqsa in the Bint Jbail region. Yeah, Israelis withdrew from the area yesterday. They entered a little bit in Bint Jbail and withdrew again. We're 5 days away from the end of the ceasefire agreement. Today, as we're driving here, we saw a couple of shells fired on different locations in the villages that we filmed. We don't know if it's explosions, explosives, or shells, or something from...
Maybe demolitions?
Demolitions.
Mostly.
But we were not able to go into those towns because of the danger.
And mainly because the Lebanese army, when this happens, comes in between any Lebanese person and the Israeli forces. This is what they're doing, basically.
Yeah.
Khiyam and Marja'youn area, and even in the western sector. The Lebanese army is making sure that whenever there are any kind of Israeli incursions somewhere, the Lebanese don't go in contact with the Israeli forces.
This is one of many houses that we saw in Al-Aqsa and in Bint Jbail that have been destroyed by attacks. We haven't seen much reconstruction beginning yet.
This is a very remote. This is a very remote village. You do not expect that you'll have immediate work.
But
here.
the third line villages we saw,
they are. They already did many steps.
Yeah, lifting the rubble, and
they lifted the rubble, and they started. And most of the lightly damaged houses are maybe they finished restoring them. This is how much people are willing to return to their villages. But of course, because these areas were still in danger. So for example, today there are no drones, but yesterday the drones here were very dangerous, and they fired even on a nearby location on the mountain behind this one. They fired a small bomb on a place, and there were some press teams. They were ordered to evacuate the area yesterday.
So the feelings here, and obviously the ceasefire in Gaza came into effect. It came into effect before the end of the 60 days ceasefire in Lebanon, which many analysts are saying it must have been one of the hidden conditions for both this Hezbollah accepting ceasefire,
Yes.
and Iran accepting not to conduct Truthful Promise 3, that the ceasefire in Gaza happens before the end of the ceasefire in Lebanon, and that it had nothing to do with the election of Trump, really.
Well, you can think or anticipate this because there were no way Hezbollah will accept or Iran will accept to leave Gaza under war in such conditions. But also the Israelis had this this huge problem that was not solved. The problem was that they didn't want to look defeated. So you can say that maybe this is what Iran and Hezbollah did. They gave Israel this, so they didn't state it as a condition boldly and clearly, but it was maybe a hidden condition. And this is why you had this immediate stopping of Hezbollah operations in Lebanon. Maybe the Israelis and the Americans promised that they will stop the war before the end of the ceasefire, and before the end of the ceasefire period here in Lebanon. And also, now from my side, I don't know if the ceasefire agreement in Lebanon will be now related to what's happening in Gaza, because here the Israelis might start a different kind of aggressions and for different purposes with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, regardless of what's going to happen in Gaza.
The Yemenis also yesterday stopped their operations attacking the Zionist colony, but they will continue to attack ships that are going to Israel. They said they will be continuing to monitor the ceasefire in Gaza if the Israelis violate it or not. Yeah. And you were going to say?
Today the Yemenis stated clearly that they were going to release the team of Galaxy Leader ship. It was the ship that was basically taken raided during the first operations of the Yemeni forces in the Red Sea. It was headed to Israel, and they stopped it and take it to the shores of Hodeidah. And this is also one of the things that might be also hidden conditions in coordination with Hamas releasing the Israeli hostages. So here we can talk about something that is happening on a larger scale than only Gaza and the allies of Gaza.
What's the elevation here? The height?
More than 1,000 meters. This is why you're feeling a bit colder than usual.
I am so cold. I've lost
although you're Canadian.
I've lost it after 6 years here. And definitely it's around the freezing temperature here now. There's wind blowing.
Usually the wind with the cold and the humidity makes this effect,
Yeah. But obviously to come back to live in these villages at this moment, as we saw all these civilians going to their homes back again, it is a testament to their faith and their belief in and their love of their land, because electricity is very scarce right now here.
No electricity, of course, in this part of Bint Jbail. This is still a part that is very close to the borders, and it's highly doubted that any electricity will be here soon. But because you have seen how the infrastructure was damaged. But despite this, we can say that we have seen how the people who were living in this town were even using the houses despite the fact that their windows are broken. In such conditions, of course, we're talking about cold weather with rain and wind. And they just decided to live in their houses and to put
plastic on their windows,
covers on the windows instead of the broken glass, and they lived here, they returned here. And of course we have seen many people, many women, many even children who were playing on their bikes. I hope we didn't film them, but they were kind enough to tell us where is the road and where to go in this town. And you can see how much the damage in this town was bigger than the second line and third line villages.
Yeah.
So basically we're in a neighborhood that was targeted. Even this villa over there is almost destroyed. And this is another house, by the way. This is one house, a second one, this one, and that's a third one. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 houses that were targeted.
So many olive trees damaged, and
look at the side of that tree, for example. You can only guess how much, powerful the materials that are being fired on this land.
So for the next 5 days, we'll try to come as often as possible to the south of Lebanon, me and Hadi, and hopefully on the day the ceasefire ends, there will be no more Israelis in our land, and we'll be able to visit every village. I'm hoping that we can visit the sides of the Golan Heights on the Lebanese side, if we can, in the next week, and the Naqoura on the seafront.
Hopefully.
Well, hopefully, and of course, we will see what the Israelis will do. Will they actually, for the first time in their life, actually deliver on any promise?
Well, if they delivered, it's not because they are people who keep their promise. No, it's because mostly they are taking seriously the threats of the resistance, and I believe that they might try to stay somewhere, to keep some land and not withdraw immediately after 6 days, so they can claim these are some kind of firing. Usually, if this happened repeatedly, for example, this means that the Israelis are firing somewhere and are doing an incursion.
Yeah.
Yesterday, this happened when we were half an hour ago in Maroun al-Ras. They suddenly, just 3 Merkavas went inside they tried to come close to Bint Jbail, but they stayed in the hill that is overlooking Bint Jbail, and then they retreated after like 4 hours. And maybe today we might see something like this today. We're staying here anyway, and if something happened, we will report on it.